Good morning, everyone. It is November 7th, 2014, 9:30 a.m. I'm John Reynolds, and you're listening to Jon Does the News on WSIN Radio 1590. I'm back after a much-needed 2-week hiatus. I just need some Fridays to relax. It's not easy being a busy college student. I realized a few weeks ago that I rarely get to sleep in, and I'm normally up in the early mornings. And for the last few Fridays, I said, I'm getting some sleep. So I got some sleep. It felt great. No regrets. But now I'm back. Not that I missed you. I hope you missed me. Anyways, we got a whole lot of news for you this week to talk about. What we're going to do today is spend a good chunk of the show talking about elections. In our lovely state of Connecticut, we re-elected Governor Dan Malloy. The state has spoken once again, and just as the voters did in 2010, they chose Malloy over Foley. However, the election, just like last time, was a pretty tight race. Dan Malloy received 50.7% of the vote, and Tom Foley received 48.2% of the vote. And for you math majors who know that's not 100%, independent candidate Joe Visconti received 1.1% of the vote despite dropping out of the race and endorsing Foley the day before elections. So I got something to play for you. I went around Southern's campus on election day and I talked to 10 different students asking them if they voted, and if they did, who did they vote for and why. It was an interesting experience talking to these people, to say the least. So, check it out. All right, what's your name, age, and major?
Matthew, 18, and public health.
Did you vote today?
No, not today.
Why not?
I did not do my absentee ballot.
Would you have voted otherwise if you did?
Yeah.
Who do you think you would have voted for if you did your absentee ballot?
Probably Tom Foley.
Why would you want to vote for Foley?
Just a change, because Malloy's not doing too good, so just something different.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. So, what's your name, age, and major?
William Mesa, 21, and engineering.
Did you vote today, Will?
I did not.
Why didn't you vote today?
Personally, it's more of personal reasons. It's I am legally a resident of Connecticut, not a citizen. I'm actually not informed whether or not I can vote or not. But either way, I haven't really been paying much attention to politics. I think that's something that I'll get into as I progress. You know, I think I'm very young to really pick a side or another, two completely different sides.
Thank you, Will. I appreciate it. Hey, what's your name, age, and major?
Ahad Chaudhry. I am 22, and I am a business administration major.
Did you vote today?
Yes, I did vote today.
If you don't mind answering, you don't have to if you don't want to. Who did you vote for and why?
I strictly voted for the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party has similar views to mine.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks, man. Now I am. I'm John Reynolds for WSIN 1590 AM outside Engelman Hall, asking people questions about if they voted today. So, what's your name, age, and major?
My name is Brian. Do I need to give you my last name?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, so Brian, 23 years old, and I do photography. I majors photography.
Okay, cool. Did you vote today?
I did not.
Why didn't you vote today?
Well, first of all, I'm at school, so I can't really make the time to go do it. But also, too, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't really care. I mean,
at least he's honest. Okay, that's cool. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. All right. Outside Engelman again. Another person. Another young man. What's your name, age, and major?
My name's Zach, and I'm 21. My major is English.
Did you vote today, Zach?
I did.
Who did you vote for, if you don't mind saying?
I voted for Foley because my grandma was voting for Foley, and I wanted her to have 2 votes.
Aww. Thank you. No problem. All right, outside of Engelman, asking another person, what's your name, age, and major?
My name is Brianna. I am 19 and I am a nursing major.
Did you vote today?
I am on my way to go vote.
If you don't mind answering, who do you plan to vote for and why?
That's a tough one. Honestly, I consider myself an independent, so this is a lot to take in this election, and I haven't really, have not really made up my mind at this point. So I couldn't tell you. There's not really anyone that I want to vote for.
Why is that?
A lot of what I really focus on has not been brought up a lot in this election. Dan Malloy's talked a lot about, or not a lot, but he's talked a little bit about what he plans to do with the environment, and it's mostly focused on the sound and cleaning up the sound. But I was hoping to have more environmental pull in this election, and that hasn't really been an issue that's been talked about a lot. I don't know, just not a lot of my biggest concerns have been really important in this election, apparently.
Thank you very much for answering my question.
No problem.
All right, outside of Engelman, what's your name, age, and major?
Why do you want to know?
Just your first name.
Lindsay, I'm a physics major.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. Did you vote today?
Not yet.
All right, so you plan on voting?
Yes.
If you don't mind answering, who do you plan on voting for and why do they get your vote?
Definitely going to vote for Malloy.
No one there.
And, well, obviously he's a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. Foley, I don't trust him, you know? And he also supports, you know, a lot of programs like homeless, you know, the nonprofit homeless.
He supports the
programs,
homeless, ladies and
I'm into
gentlemen.
that, so it's my vote.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. That was it.
So, all right, I'm in Engelman right now, and I'm with someone else. What's your name, age, and major?
I am Jeff. My age is 22. My major is communication.
Did you vote today?
I did not.
Why didn't you vote today?
Just got too much stuff going on. I'm not really aware of any of the politics right now. So.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep.
Perfect. Getting a lot of answers like that.
I need to get one. I'm a journalist.
Yeah, it's a great tool. Interesting. What's your name, age, and major?
Kieran Norman, 23, and I am a media studies major.
Did you vote today?
I did vote this morning.
Who did you vote for, if you don't mind saying?
I voted for not Dan Malloy, the other one.
Tom Foley?
Tom Foley.
Why did you vote for Tom Foley?
Because my mom told me to. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm so sorry.
All right. All right.
Because her mom told her to.
Yeah, I'm outside Lyman Hall right now, talking to some people. What's your name, age, and major?
Do you want my last name, too?
No.
Okay. Christina, 20, journalism major.
Did you vote?
Not yet, but I plan on voting later today.
All right. Do you mind saying who you're going to vote for?
Yeah, Tom Foley.
Why Tom Foley?
I don't know. I think we need some change, so something different.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Some change. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. They wanted change. Did they get change? No. They got Dan Malloy again for another few years. The polls were open in Hartford until 8:30, and a lot of people said that wasn't really fair because Dan Malloy had the obvious advantage in Hartford. Well, because he's the governor, and Capitol's in Hartford, I guess. So I guess it's the easiest place for him to campaign. And they were doing same-day voter registration, too. And I really don't know how I feel about that, because I think that's one reason why it had to take until 8:30. But they finally decided to close the doors on the voter registration. A lot of people didn't get to vote. A lot of people were unhappy about that. But, hey, if you want to have a say, don't wait. That's what I say. Anyway, it's interesting when you look at this state and how they voted by county. It is mostly blue, but on the corner in Litchfield County and Tolland County, as well as Windham County, like the corners of the state, they voted for Tom Foley mostly. So, but unfortunately, those weren't worth very much because, well, there wasn't a lot of population in those areas, in those counties. In the urban areas, Dan Malloy did very well. Spent a lot of time campaigning there. I think the support of Barack Obama definitely helped him win this race. I don't know if he would have been able to do it without Obama and without his great volunteers who worked really hard. I was walking down the street on Election Day, and there were a couple cars going around saying, "Vote Dan Malloy, vote Dan Malloy, this is why you should vote Dan Malloy." And it was a recording of Dan Malloy, and probably helped him. I don't know if Tom Foley did anything about that, but that's just what I saw. So for Fairfield County, it was really, really close. There was a difference of 16 votes between Dan Malloy and Tom Foley. Wicked, wicked close. So I think Dan Malloy won a little bit more than, I think he beat Foley a little bit more than he did during the last election. And I don't know. We'll see how it's like for the next few years with Dan Malloy being the governor again. He has done a decent amount for the state of Connecticut. He has raised the minimum wage. He helped sign those new gun laws into law. And a lot of other things that make people happy, like his response to the storms, natural disasters. He was pretty quick responding to that. So they like him. And Connecticut is a mostly blue state, so I wasn't surprised that Dan Malloy came up on top. That's who I thought would win all along. Tom Foley seemed like an okay candidate, but a lot of people just didn't relate to him. I think that whole business owner guy who went bankrupt and screwed over a lot of his employees really hurt him, because a lot of the people who came out and vote were probably, like, they had similar jobs, like factory workers, just people who would work for someone like Tom Foley. They don't want him being the governor. But in a lot of more conservative areas, they tend to vote for Tom Foley. I was talking to my friend yesterday, and her dad owns a business. And she said this is what her opinion is. She thinks that people who own businesses are more conservative because, well, in order to run a business, you have to be fiscally conservative. You need to watch your budget. And it's also something that they can relate to. It's different than being an employee for someone. When you own your own business and you run things, it's just a way different experience. And that's why Tom Foley got those votes. But in the end, he wasn't able to do it. So Well, we got a lot of other things that happened during this election. For instance, Oregon, Alaska, and Washington, D.C. legalized recreational use of marijuana. Want to know my opinion on this? Well, I'm going to say it anyways because it's my show. Finally, this drug war is disgusting, and it only hurts people like us, people like students. That's who they target mostly. This was a win for students, and it was a win for the government as well. I do know that Oregon and Alaska plans to they plan to do the same thing that Colorado did. They're going to regulate the sale of marijuana, and they're going to tax it, and they're probably going to make a lot of money. Colorado is just making so much money off of it, and these other states are seeing, and they're like, why can't we do this? We can have this money, and we can clear up our court system. There's no reason why people who do marijuana should have to go through the justice system like that. It's just a waste of resources. It's a completely victimless crime. It's victimless. It's a plant, people. It's a plant. It's a harmless plant. This is just so reassuring, though. It just shows that younger people are going to the polls. They're waking up. I think this is because of technology as well. People have access to information now more conveniently than ever. With smartphones, we have the world at our fingertips. We can get all sorts of knowledge. We can watch something. We can figure out if it's true or not by, I don't know, there's just, did you see any of the attack ads against these marijuana measures? They're the same propaganda BS that came out years and years ago during like the 60s and 50s and even 70s. It's like reefer madness all over again. For any of you listeners who have seen Reefer Madness before, or for those who haven't seen Reefer Madness, it's just a old propaganda film. Now it's looked at as more of satire. But I think this is a step in the right direction. Washington, D.C., they're regulating it a little bit differently. They are not selling it. They are not making money off of it. It's still illegal to do in public, but you can grow up to 6 plants at once. All right? So that's kind of a lot. And I read that you can only have 3 like blossoming or mature plants at once out of the 6 that you have. So I really don't know how they're going to regulate that, though. If someone just wants to grow pot in their house, then what's stopping them from just growing as many plants as they want? It's not like the police are gonna look in people's homes and see how many pot plants you're growing. I don't think they have to. Well, no, that. Guess you can't register your pot plants. Like you can guns or whatever, like they do with magazines in Connecticut now. So, I don't know. But it's good to see that these laws are loosening up, and it's going to be nice to see how things change over the years. This happened, the first states to legalize it for recreational use, Washington and Colorado, did that 2 years ago. And 2 years later, we get 2 more states and Washington, D.C. And it'd be great. I wouldn't complain if 2 more came next election. But it would be nice to see a lot more at once just like what happened with gay marriage. It's nice to see that the times are changing. Speaking of change, the Senate changed a lot. The Republicans took over the majority, so they now have the Senate, and they were also able to keep the House. So it's going to be interesting watching Barack Obama for the next 2 years, seeing what he does. I don't think much is going to happen, honestly, if you ask me. I feel like the Republicans are going to do things that the Democrats don't want, and they'll be able to push it through. And then Obama's going to veto it, and then nothing is going to happen. Lovely. But a lot of upset liberals, at least on my newsfeed. They're like, what? I can't believe it. I can't believe the Republicans took the Senate. Why? I don't know. Like, I've noticed that younger people these days aren't as liberal as they used to be. It used to be the thing, like, you're young and you're liberal, and then you grow older and you get more conservative. But I've noticed that people are being more libertarian now. And libertarianism is pretty cool. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. You get the liberal social side and you get the fiscally conservative side. So together, you just get this awesome thing called libertarianism. But anyways, moving on, I got some songs for you to play, for me to play, and for you to listen to. I'm going to play some Off the Dome. Today I don't have a featured band, but I'm going to play a variety of music from local bands that I've played in the past. For instance, I'm going to play Off the Dome, Time Relapse, Vanilla Coast, and Eggy. So, without further ado, I'm going to be playing The Siege. Hope you enjoy. And we are back. Did you miss me? That was a great song by Off the Dome. That song was known as The Siege off of their self-titled EP. Check out Off the Dome at offthedome.bandcamp.com. Listen to them for free. Why wouldn't you? It's free, and they're awesome. Gonna play some Time Relapse for you next, but before that, I want to talk a little bit more about the elections and some of the polls. We had talked about marijuana before, and a new Gallup poll released on Thursday said 51% of Americans favoring legal cannabis use and 47% oppose the legislation, down 7 percentage points from last year. So it's still the majority, but not really much. It's 51%. And I guess the other 2 or whatever percent are undecided. But you know what that means? You know what that tells me? Mostly old people were probably in this poll compared to last year. Young people don't want to vote in the midterm elections. They just don't. And that's kind of a problem. As you had heard if you were listening in earlier, not a lot of those people who I interviewed voted. And some did vote, but the ones who voted didn't really, didn't seem like they had much of an opinion to me to offer. I don't know, maybe they were just trying to get me out of their face because I was holding this stupid microphone in their face. And I was like, hey, you want to answer some questions about Election Day? And then a lot of them were like, sure. And unsurprisingly, a lot of them said that they didn't vote. A lot of them said that they didn't really know enough to vote, and some of them just flat out admitted that they didn't care. Some of them who said that they did vote voted for, I guess not the best reasons, in my opinion. I feel like you gotta have a real opinion on these things. You gotta really know what these candidates stand for, or else don't vote. I mean, that's not a very popular thing to say to people, because a lot of people are like, oh, you should vote, you should have your say. But if you don't like anybody, why should you support them? I mean, I guess you can do a protest vote and vote for someone who's unpopular, but if you don't really like them, what's the point? Your vote should be valuable. You should look at your vote like a gift. A gift to a good friend that you admire. A gift to someone you have hope for and believe in, and your views closely align with them. A lot of people, except for one, I think there's this one girl, she said, I'm undecided. Neither Tom Foley or Dan Malloy talked about what I cared about. So, kudos for her. At least she has an opinion to offer. One of them said, oh, because they support the homeless. Well, there's just this weird view that I don't think is true these days, that Republicans just don't care about people. I think conservatives care about people. I don't know. How are you going to say someone doesn't care about the homeless when, they're not all evil, all right? I guess that's the point I'm trying to get to. But anyways, I want to talk about Mitch McConnell, because out of all of the campaigns that I saw, this was the craziest. He had totally destroyed his opponent, Matt Bevin, and I guess it's not surprising because McConnell had a whole lot of money to throw at the campaign. Millions and millions of dollars. He even had a 2.5-minute attack ad dubbed The Kitchen Sink, with a narrator accusing Bevin of getting rich the Wall Street way, lying on his resume, and chronically failing to pay taxes. So, I mean, I guess that's very typical. If you're going to be campaigning, you better hope that there's not too much dirt on you. But as some wise men once said, there's always dirt. There is always dirt, and when you got money, you can find that dirt very easy and exploit it. So, a lot of people don't like these negative attack ads. It's like, oh, they're so negative, and they're so... Yeah, they are. But there's a reason why people use them. They work. Whether you want to admit it or not, they totally work. And the brilliant thing that Mitch McConnell did... and by the way, I'm not saying I support him. I'm not saying I support Matt Bevin either. But this is just this was an impressive campaign. The amazing thing was he had about equal percent of positive ads as well as negative ads. But he was just able to push out more ads overall than his opponent. So, I guess when you're on the TV all the time, people are going to vote for you. So, it's really interesting, though, looking at these campaigns and how people win counties, and they got to do a lot of work. And I think they started 2 years ago. And apparently 2 years ago, when McConnell's team found out that Bevin was going to compete against him, they dug up all the dirt on him, and they pretty much went right up to him and said, went up to the other team. McConnell's team went up to Devin's team and said, hey, if you run, this is what we got on him, and we're ruthless, and we're going to do all this. And so I guess, I don't know, that's the kind of side of politics that a lot of people don't like and are uncomfortable for. It kind of feels like they're black. It basically is legal blackmail. You got to be shifty to be able to work in politics, and you got to be rich to want to win in politics, or you just got to have a silver tongue and can get the money from the people. Anyways, I think that's enough election talk for right now. Gonna go on to some more news when we get back. Got some interesting things that happened this week to talk about. I'm gonna play Time Relapse next. This next one is called The Wasted Ones. Hope you enjoy. Check them out on ReverbNation.com/Time Relapse. You can listen to them for free. Why wouldn't you want to listen to them for free? They're great. Enjoy. And remember, you are listening to Jon Does the News on WSIN Radio 1590 AM. And we are back. You are listening to Jon Does the News on WSIN Radio 1590 AM. And of course, I am Jon, bringing you the news. So, I was reading some articles and I figured, why not read one? The Michael Brown situation in Ferguson has been pretty hot lately. And I was reading an article yesterday from the Washington Post. The headline is, Ferguson police investigating altercation in parking lot involving Michael Brown's mother and other family members. This is written by Sarah Larimar. And from, once again, the Washington Post. Gonna read it for you. Police in Ferguson, Missouri are investigating a fight between members of the family of Michael Brown, which allegedly erupted over the sale of merchandise last month. Pearl Gordon, Michael Brown Sr.'s mother-in-law, told police that she was selling Justice for Mike Brown items in a parking lot on October 18th when a group of 20 to 30 people rushed towards her. According to an incident report, Gordon said that Brown's mother, Leslie McSpadden, told her that she couldn't sell the merchandise. Gordon then told McSpadden that unless McSpadden could produce documentation stating she had a patent on her son's name, she was going to continue selling her merchandise, the report states. That's when McSpadden's mother started to rip down items from the booth. Gordon told police she was hit on the head and knocked to the ground. She said McSpadden punched her during the incident, in which more than $1,500 in merchandise and at least $400 in cash was stolen. A witness watched the fight and recorded it, but didn't immediately provide the police department with the video, according to the report. A woman who answered a phone listed for Gordon declined to comment. Leanne Perkins, a lawyer for McSpadden, told the St. Louis Post-Dispatch that her client denies that she assaulted anyone. Ferguson police spokesperson Tim Zoll said that no other departments were involved in the case. It took place in Ferguson, he said. It wasn't a part of the protest. It was a part of people selling things. Brown was fatally shot by Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson in August. His killing was followed by a string of protests in the St. Louis suburb, and the response from law enforcement was heavily criticized. A grand jury is discussing the case, and local officials and activists are preparing for its decision. Wow. I don't know what to say. This is unfortunate that Michael Brown's family is fighting over Michael Brown merch. And I kind of see the mother's view. If she assaulted someone, that's wrong and bad, and it's definitely not going to make her look good. But I could see why selling merchandise for profit, the family member Pearl Gordon, Michael Brown's mother-in-law, didn't say if she was going to donate this to anything. It was probably for personal profit. And I guess I could sympathize with the view that profiting off of someone's death is morally wrong. And I totally see that. But at the same time, it could be legal to sell that merchandise, and Pearl Gordon could have had a point. I'm interested to see the video because someone is obviously lying. McSpadden's lawyer said that McSpadden said that she didn't assault anyone. And obviously Pearl Gordon says otherwise. It would be nice to see that video, which would prove for real whether or not she assaulted someone. But it's just unfortunate to see this family fighting with each other at this time. It has to be a difficult time for them. Gotta be honest, folks, I do not think the grand jury is going to indict Darren Wilson. Evidence that came out a few weeks ago showed that Michael Brown suffered a close-up gunshot injury in his hand, and that went to align with Darren Wilson's testimony on the case that Darren Wilson had shot him at close range when an altercation happened in the car. So that's given Darren Wilson some credibility right there with that autopsy find. That fact made a lot of people uncomfortable, and a lot of people do think now, including myself, think that they're not going to indict him. And I remember reading that Anonymous, this hacktivist group or whatever, they're a weird group. No one really knows who's in charge. It's just this group of people who say they're anonymous and they do stuff. They said that they received a leak from 2 sources that they considered trustworthy, that the grand jury will not indict Darren Wilson, and that they will probably release the decision on or around November 10th. So we'll see if that's true or not. If that's true and the leak is proven to be true, then the Missouri court system definitely has something to worry about, worrying about leaks like this. I remember reading that the prosecutor in this case wanted to make sure not a lot of evidence was released to the public because of the controversial nature of this case. And Anonymous had also said that police in the area were all informed to prepare for these protests, to get ready for them, for mass protests. And honestly, I see that happening. I definitely see that happening. A lot of people have been protesting every night, especially on the weekends in the St. Louis area. And there have been protests all around the country. Similar things happened during the Trayvon Martin trial, or rather after the George Zimmerman trial, because George Zimmerman was acquitted of murder. A lot of people marched after that. Police want to make sure that no one's rights are violated during these protests, because sometimes these protests have a tendency to grow violent. I remember watching a live stream during, right after the decision was made for George Zimmerman. And a lot of bad people were using that opportunity to do bad things. The majority of protesters were peaceful, though. It's just sad to see that people are using these, I guess, this movement to do bad things to other people. I know that when the Mike Brown case was first announced, or after the incident first happened, there was looting. People were angry. But one important thing to note about when that looting happened was most of the looters were not from Ferguson. They weren't. They came from outside of Ferguson. I think out of the 45 people who were arrested, only one of them was from Ferguson. So it just goes to show that people are coming from the outside area to do these things. I think that's kind of messed up. But kudos to the protesters who are exercising their rights to protest and doing it peacefully without taking any rights from other people. I've noticed that police only get involved when protesters are doing things like shutting down streets. Like that's not okay. You have your causes, fight for them, but I don't know. Do it the right way. Do it the peaceful way. There's always a better way. Anyways, on to some weird news. I was reading yesterday that this lady, this Irish teacher, was denied employment in South Korea because of her Irish drinking nature. She couldn't believe it, this lady. She had gotten an email from the place that she applied to, and they sent an email back. I'm trying to pull up the article now. The computer's giving me crap. We just have really old computers over here. We need to have these updated. I had the article until Shockwave decided to stop working. Anyways, she couldn't believe it. They responded, and they actually said the reason why. I mean, I know employers discriminate. Let's be real here. A lot of employers discriminate. Discrimination does happen, but employers have a lot of things that they could say to the candidates that they don't pick, or to the people who they discriminate against. They could say, oh, you weren't exactly what we were looking for, or your availability wasn't what we were looking for, or we decided to go with someone with more experience, or stuff like that. There's always a way for employers to cover themselves, but I don't know if there's discrimination laws in South Korea. There might be. There might not be. Or at least they're probably not the same as the ones we have in the United States. All right. Got some more funny things. A woman was arrested trafficking crystal meth while wearing a I Heart Crystal Meth t-shirt. Not very smart, this lady. A little sketchy, if you ask me. Not smart. I guess you always have those funny stories with those dumb criminals who out themselves or get themselves arrested. And what else do we have for weird news today? Oh, well, I guess I'm out. Out of news. Completely out of news for yous. Anyways, I'm going to play some songs from Eggy. Eggy is a great band. A lot of the members, I think all of the members actually, go to Southern Connecticut State University. They released an EP in March of this year, self-titled Eggy. And I think it is just great. These guys are hardworking, and you can really tell that they have soul when listening to their tunes. Anyways, I'm going to play them for you. I'm going to play the song Faye, but I got to sign out. I gotta sign off. It was a fun show. It was an interesting show. We talked about the election. We talked about marijuana legalization. We talked about Mitch McConnell. We talked about Ferguson. We talked about silly criminals who sold meth and wore a I Heart Meth t-shirt. And that's all for now. Hope you have a great week, everyone. And remember, read some news. Please read some news. Anyways, I'm John Reynolds. This is Jon Does the News. I'm signing off. You are listening to WSIN Radio 1590 AM. Have a great Friday, everyone.
Thank you.